Welcome back. Now, the Health Products Regulatory Authority has approved 2 more COVID-19 vaccines. They are Pfizer's Comirnaty, and MC Pharma, also referred to as the Sinopharm Vaccine. Let's get the details now from SAHPRA CEO Boitumelo Semete Makokotlela, who'll speak to us virtually now. Dr. Semete, I hope you can hear me. If you could just switch your camera on for us so that we can see you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good morning, Doc. Thank you very much for speaking to us. Now, firstly, these 2 vaccines have been approved on condition. Can you just explain to us what those conditions are?
Sure. And I mean, the conditions that we've given these vaccines are very similar to conditions we've given the other vaccines that had authorization. And if I could mention a few, the first is around the reports that we need regularly on the vaccine efficacy of these vaccines against any emerging variants of concern. So we do get regular reports. And so even with Sinopharm that we've now registered, that is one of the conditions. The second condition is around the safety monitoring of these vaccines. We need to get regular and periodic reports on the safety of these vaccines as then they are made available in the country. And then lastly is that they must then be made available as per the national COVID vaccination program. So that's just a few of some, but we detail these conditions for each of the manufacturers.
And of course, then it means that at least for South Africans, there are more COVID-19 vaccines that would be available for South Africans. But what does this then mean? Remind us about the process, please, Doc. Once you have registered, when do they then start, being able to be, the doses are able to be given to people?
Sure. So, I mean, our role as SAHPRA is really around the authorization, and once these are made available, monitoring these vaccines from an efficacy and a safety perspective. In terms of procurement, this is then the role of the National Department of Health. So they now need to make a decision in terms of, are they going to procure these vaccines? When will they procure? They will let us know so that once they do, we then assess these vaccines when they're made available or they arrive in the country. We can do our quality checks and then monitor the safety. So how they become available is not within the mandate of SAHPRA.
And does SAHPRA know at all in terms of efficacy of these new vaccines?
Yeah, so I mean, the Pfizer vaccine, we have been using it in the country and we're quite satisfied with its efficacy, even against the different variants of concern that we have seen emerging in the country. So the only difference now is that instead of an emergency use authorization, Pfizer has a registration. In terms of the Sinopharm vaccine, based on the data that was provided to us for the various variants of concern with the exclusion of Omicron for now, it presented about a 79% vaccine efficacy. So we're quite happy with that. We are also expecting that with time, they will also then give us data for a booster dose, because we are seeing that a number of these vaccines do require boosting.
And just very quickly, Doc, while I still have you, there are still people who, for instance, still have, those bad ideas about vaccines, who still are hesitant to take vaccines. I mean, SAHPRA, you, the regulatory authority that approves any medicine from entering into our country. Just talk to us about the safety measures that you take before allowing medication to get into the country, because I think it's very important to let people know that what you're approving is not something that is meant to kill us.
No, certainly, and thanks for the opportunity to share on this very important topic. So for us as a regulator, to be able to approve any vaccine that should be made available in the country, we look at its safety, based on clinical trial, based on studies even from other countries. We don't only look at data from South Africa. We then look at the product's quality. Is it manufactured with compliant quality standards? And the facility where it's manufactured at, is it then also a compliant facility? We then look at what we call efficacy, which says, does the vaccine do what it claims to do? And then once we've approved it, when the product is then made available in the country, so when it arrives in the country, before it's released, we take samples from those batches and we test them to ensure that the quality of the product that has been brought into the country is as per what we have approved. And when it's then being rolled out, we monitor then any side effects. So we've spoken around this. We've got an app, the Med Safety app that the public can access, and they log within that app their side effects. And we then monitor those, and anything that is what we call adverse events, we then look at those together with the National Department of Health as well as the provinces, and we follow those reports. So there's very tight monitoring. And based on what we have seen, we still are of the view that the benefit of vaccination still far outweighs some of the very rare adverse events that we're seeing. And some of these adverse events are not unique to COVID vaccines. You see some of these with other vaccines. So the benefit continues to outweigh the risk.
Thank you very much for speaking to us here on All Angles. Dr. Boitumelo Semeti Makokotlela, she's the CEO of the